Welcome to the Sharp Way Show. So happy to have you with me this evening, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And yes, I am here again with who I think is a very, very special guest. I am very lucky to have this man with me this evening because we're talking about something that I think most people don't talk about. And that is the idea of a liberty-focused society, a liberty-focused government outside of America. I think we often don't talk about that. It's very rare. And sometimes we think that, as we yap back and forth in America, we think we're the only country in the world. And we're not. There are a whole lot more countries in this world, not just us. And sometimes it's good for us to think about that in a very positive way sometimes. And I want to bring aboard someone who has been thinking about liberty in his own country, has been very active on social media, and now active in his own country. The man from Nigeria himself, Econ Bro. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. It's very good to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And for those of you who don't know, in Nigeria right now, it's about midnight. So he has been very good to show up and be here at midnight his time. I appreciate it tremendously. If you want to follow him, you can follow him on Twitter at True Econ Bro, and that is TrueEconBreau. So let me ask you, if I could, Econ, you literally did study economics in university. Is that true?
Yes, I did. So I studied economics in school.
So with that in mind, one would think that if you studied economics in school, you would have already learned about libertarian economics and Austrian economics and things like that. Is that not true?
No, it's not true. It's not true here in Nigeria, and it's not true anywhere else in the world. So I've looked up the curriculum in other countries in the US, and so after getting my bachelor's degree, I wanted to go study. I actually wanted to travel to the US to study, to get my master's and maybe my PhD. Thank God I didn't do any of that. I would have just learned more of the same nonsense that I learned in my bachelor's. So I looked into what they have to offer at Caltech. I was actually looking into Caltech. Thankfully, I couldn't afford the tuition, so I decided I would just look for other options, and that was what led me to one of the things actually that led me to my study of Austrian economics. So it's the same everywhere in the world. In Nigeria, in the US, in England, it's all neoclassical Keynesian monetarist economics. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, you then decided to kind of go to the internet to do your own homework, to kind of figure things out and that type of stuff. And if I remember the story right, the people who kind of made you start thinking about this were actually not libertarians at first. They were actually more like Christian content creators. They kind of made you kind of think differently. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. So what I do, my major job, the major work I do now is I'm actually a preacher of the gospel. I am a Christian preacher by profession. So I've been studying Christianity and religion in general for a couple of, I think since 2012, I've been studying religion. I looked into Judaism, Islam, but mostly Christianity. So in my study of Christianity, I came across people like I can't name here right now, but I looked into a couple of very popular Western preachers, apologists, people who do apologetics and all that, and a lot of them had, let me say, liberty adjacent views. So when they would talk about, I'm watching a video to learn about maybe textual criticism or something, and then the person speaking maybe talks about something, maybe a situation in America or something of the sort, and what they would say, I'm trying to not actually give specifics.
No worries, it's okay. You don't have to. We're good. I get it. Totally fine. So, but what's funny about this is I know that Nigeria is a very diverse country when it comes to religion. You have a sizable Muslim population, particularly in the north, a sizable Christian population. You still have people who have more localized animist type religions also, to the point of
Yes.
even witch doctors and such are still exist all in Nigeria. So you have a big
Yes.
chunk. What were you born Christian, or were you drawn to study Christianity?
Well, I was born into a Christian family, but it was more of a social thing for my family. We just went to church because that's what everyone did. But as I grew older, I started to draw to try to figure things out for myself, and then yeah, I saw that was what
So,
drew me into
so
Christianity.
now you start
I just wanted to know God
hearing,
more, and so
sure. So now you start hearing things that seem libertarian to you, and you say, wait a minute, this is not what I was taught in college, right? So you're saying to yourself, this is
yes.
not making sense to me. Wait a minute, these guys are saying this, but they said that. So then what was your next step after that? Once you saw there was a problem.
Yeah, so many things I was taught in school, economics didn't add up. Many things didn't add up. There were so many holes in the orthodox doctrine, economic doctrine they teach in universities. A lot of things didn't add up, and initially I chalked it up to the professors not being very competent. So I went out to study on my own, and I found out it wasn't just that it wasn't incompetence. It wasn't the incompetence of my professors. Rather, it was the doctrine itself, the philosophy, the economics they taught us in school that had the problems. So I started to look for alternatives, and that's what led me to Austrian economics. It's a very long journey. I didn't just become. So I actually became an Austrian. I would say last year officially.
You know
So
what
I
you
used to
remind me
skirt.
of? You remind me of Thomas Sowell. I
What's
always
that?
use that example all the time because Thomas Sowell went to school and he was a Marxist. And then over time, he met Milton Friedman, he worked for the government, and then he became one of the most prolific writers that we have in libertarian theory.
Yes.
So are you the next Thomas Sowell? Is that you?
I consider that very high praise to be compared to Thomas Sowell. I hope I am the next Thomas Sowell, but honestly, I don't think I'm half as brilliant as he is. But I appreciate the compliment.
That's good.
So I am so in looking for solutions to the problems in my country, because after studying economics at university, I always try to apply what I was taught to the economic situation in my country. So it's no news to anyone that there's a lot of poverty and hardship in Nigeria. So I
Sure.
would always so I made sure that I learned economics in school so that I'll be able to offer solutions to the problems. And I thought the problem was that the economists we had out there were incompetent. Maybe they didn't learn properly in school. So I said I was going to learn what I was taught so that I'll come out with solutions, and actually exposing myself to actual economists doing their work here in Nigeria. I found out they were suggesting the same things that I had in my head, right? So the problem was not with the professors, the economists in the country, but it was with the doctrine, it's with the philosophy. So that made me decide to look for alternatives. And I started with Hayek, Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, and
Sure.
I've read those guys, and I studied their works for no that this was when I began my I had no idea who these people were before 2015. I had heard of Hayek. I had heard of Milton Friedman because they teach us. Um, there's a course called History of Economic Thought where they talk about Ludwig von Mises and F.A. Hayek and Milton Friedman, but that's all. They didn't really say so much about them. So
Got it.
eventually, I encountered these people watching videos on YouTube, reading their books, and all that. So it was last year after, and I don't know if it's fine that I tell the story of how you, Dave Smith, and Spike Cohen got
You're
me
going to
to
talk about
where I am
me?
now.
Please tell that story. Yes.
Okay, so I was basically a conservative, right? A MAGA conservative. That's how I would describe myself. I don't know if you know who Steven Crowder is. I used to call
Sure.
myself a Steven Crowder conservative. I loved the man. I still do. I know he's not exactly hot right now, but I still love the man because he helped me get to where I am today. So I used to call myself a Crowder conservative. So last year I was watching the Patrick Bet-David podcast, and he had on Joe Jorgensen, and I think it was a couple of shows after that he had Dave Smith, Spike Cohen, and yourself. He had three of you on, and some other lady. And
her name was Jessica Vaughn.
So, okay, Jessica Vaughn. Thank you. Yes, Jessica Vaughn. So I in watching that episode, I had an idea. I had this idea that all libertarians were, I don't know. So my only exposure to libertarians before that that podcast was the people at Reason magazine. Those and I'm not particularly a fan of that brand of libertarianism.
Let me be very clear real fast. Neither am I. I think Reason magazine is a poser rag. I am not impressed by them whatsoever. So I have no problem with you slamming them on my show. Slam them all day. No worries.
Okay. So I'm going to speak freely now. I actually thought libertarians were garbage because of Reason.
I understand.
By the way, every time. So when I knew about libertarians, I learned from conservatives, right? Maybe Steven Crowder or Lawrence Southern or somebody does a takedown of libertarians is usually the Reason types. I had never heard of the Mises Caucus or I had heard of the Mises Institute, but I just figured it was all libertarians, crazy people, right? So I thought it was all Reason. So watching that show, I decided not to take what I had heard people say about libertarianism from. I decided not to take that. So I said, let me listen to the libertarians speak. Unfortunately, you guys were the ones on the show that day, and everything you said, I agreed with everything you said. I mean, it wasn't easy to accept the arguments. It's normal. I was putting up a wall. I was resistant, but the arguments made so much sense to me. And Dave Smith said he mentioned that he was Rothbardian, and that made me look up Rothbardian, and then I found out Murray Rothbard, and that was basically what made me switch. So it was that podcast that actually made me that set me on the path. So then I just went and started to consume everything Austrian I could find, everything Mises, Rothbard, Salerno, Tom Woods, Walter Block. I just started to consume everything, Hopper, everything I could find, and that's how I got to. So it's been almost maybe a year and a couple of months, and it's been a very, very wonderful ride. So because of the foundation that I had with Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell and F.A. Hayek, it wasn't really too difficult to make the switch. So it's not like I went from a Keynesian or a socialist to an Austrian. It was I moved from the Keynesian nonsense I learned in school to the Thomas Sowells and then to the Rothbards and Mises. So that was basically my
so I get story. Where your head is, and I see where most of academia or the universities, teachers and professors are. My question is, how about your government, right? And I bring this up for two things I ask. One, I know we told this before that there are different groups within Nigeria, tribes, religions, very diverse. Do either of these groups tend to be more libertarian or more conservative or more communist? Do any groups? I know that the northern area is more of the Hausa tribe is that area.
Hausa, yeah.
I know they're Muslim, correct?
Yes, majority Muslim.
Right? And then there's Yoruba and is it Igbo? Am I saying it right?
Igbo, yeah.
Igbo, thank you. Igbo, yes. Igbo, so
Igbo is fine. You can just say Igbo.
Igbo, thank you. Yes. So
Igbo,
I know there are
Igbo, yeah.
Yes, so there are several of them. So are these groups, do they work together in government? Do they not work in government? Do they think differently? Is it a group thing? Like we have in America, that we look at our ethnic groups and say, oh, we want, these people to vote this way and these people to vote that way. Is it similar in Nigeria or no? Did I lose you? I think I might have lost him. I'm hoping to get him back. So I'll keep talking until he comes back. So the reason why I asked that question is, obviously in America here, we use identity politics, right? We decide, what is Joe Biden's famous saying? If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So I was wondering if they have a similar issue in Nigeria, that if you are of this ethnic group, you're supposed to vote this way, or that ethnic group, that kind of thing. So Econ, thank you, you're back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you lost me.
So the question I was asking you is, in America, we have a lot of identity politics. Yes. Right? If you are from this ethnic background, you're supposed to vote this way. If you're poor or wealthy, you vote that way. If you're an evangelical Christian, you're supposed to vote this way. Do you have a similar thing with the ethnicities within Nigeria?
Yes, we do. We do. The Northerners, the Muslims, they tend to vote they tend to vote a certain way, a certain party, the All Progressives Congress. That's the ruling party right now. So they tend to vote that way. And then, so it doesn't even matter. So people vote here based on personality. It's not about ideas or ideologies. There's no right or left here. Everyone here is a leftist. Everyone here.
Okay.
Everyone here is a leftist.
I remember you had a guy who was your president who I thought was very interesting. His name was Good Luck Jonathan. He used to wear a black hat. I remember that.
Yes.
And I thought he was like I don't know if he was, but he felt like, as an outsider, like he was an actor. That's what it felt like to me, right? Was he a decent president? Did people like him?
No, people didn't like him, but because of how bad things have been since he left, people miss the good old days.
Got it. Okay.
So here we don't have, there's no right or left. Everyone is just on the left here in terms of politics and economics. We have a conservative culture because of Islam and then Christianity. The whole LGBT thing doesn't work here at all. It's illegal to be gay in Nigeria. It's a crime to be gay in Nigeria. But apart from that, we are pretty left on everything else, I think.
So generally speaking, if I get it right, you are more conservative on social issues. Yes. And more liberal on economic issues. So you're more towards a socialist or communist view on economics. But
maybe not communist. Maybe not communist. We are very Keynesian.
Okay.
We are not. We're not full blown left like that. No, it's Keynesian. Although we have certain socialist elements that are arising. It's very scary. A lot of people don't see it as a problem, but I know what socialism has in store for wherever it touches. So it scares me, and it's actually part of why I do what I'm doing now. Not just to push against the poverty now, but to inoculate, to vaccinate people against the evil that is socialism. That's actually a major part of the work I'm trying to do here.
So let me bring this up if I could. Let me talk to my audience. I've done my audience for a minute. Guys, if you're watching this and you're liking what you're hearing, do me a favor, click that like button now. Click the like button so that people see this. It does matter. If you're watching this on Twitter, please retweet this. Just hit retweet right now. Click it, retweet it. It does matter. If you want your comment to come to the front, you can always super chat me if you're watching on YouTube. But more importantly right now, Econ Bro is trying to push his movement forward and do his work. You can support his work if you want to. He's calling it the Nigerian Liberty Project. You can go over there to gogetfunding.com, the Nigerian Liberty Project. The link is in both Facebook and on YouTube. If you can support him in some way, if you care about, liberty moving outside the nation, every dollar you send is going to help. $10, $50, $100, whatever you got. If you can send him some money, it's going to help him if you could do that. He's trying to do that right now. If you say, Larry, I love him, but I got no cash. No worries. You can still support him by following him on Twitter at True Econ Bro. It's TruEconBreau. If you do that and then copy his stuff and retweet his stuff and repost his stuff, you're still helping. So you can help either by being a social media warrior or by throwing him some money, or both. Either one works. If you can do both, even better. Whatever you can do is going to help. So if you can do that, that'd be great. So let me now, if I could, go to a couple of comments. I have some comments here that I want to pick up if I can. Let's see here if I can do this. Dave asks, is there any chance of a Libertarian Party of Nigeria being created? And I bring this up because I always assume that there's always some form of reform movement. Right? Anytime a country's in trouble, there's always some kind of reform movement. Is the reform movement in Nigeria something else, or is there a libertarian reform movement?
There is a reform movement here, but it's a socialist reform movement. Now, is there a libertarian party in Nigeria? Absolutely not. Is there a conservative party in Nigeria? Absolutely not. However, because there is an oversaturation of left-wing ideas here, when I go out and I talk to students, I talk to young people about libertarian ideas, it's so strange and it's very exotic to them, right? I hosted my seminar, my first seminar in June of this year, and I had about 50 people attend. I wanted
Congrats!
to host. I wanted to host more than I had the intentions of hosting about 100 people, but I couldn't afford to do that. So I just hosted the 50 that I could. I spoke to them, gave them free books by Murray Rothbard, and they were very interested in the ideas. They had never heard anything like that. And I've had people call me from different parts of the country, people I've never met, saying, a friend of mine said, this is what you're saying. I'm interested in hearing more about this. And, I communicate with them online and stuff, till I can get more money to spread the message. So I believe that because of how interesting our ideas are and exotic to this part of the world, I believe if I keep at this in the next 5 years, most likely we would have a libertarian party in Nigeria.
Nice. I love that. I love that. So yes, Benjamin says, I studied economic, geography. I fully agree with Econ Bro. There are a lot of things that don't make sense. Paul Krugman won a Nobel Prize, and I disagree with his views. So I think there are people who are right on board with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I can, let me ask the question then. If there is a socialist movement, and that's a reform movement, but not a libertarian movement, that makes me feel like it's going to be difficult to influence people. I'm glad you are. So how do we influence people who are subsistence farmers, right? Which I know in many parts in America, we have people who are in, terrible urban areas, which are very poor. And it's very hard to get people in those areas to hear a libertarian message. They're accustomed to being helped by government. They expect government to do something. They expect that. And they also expect the government to punish the wealthy and then give them money. That's a very common thought process here in America. I assume in Nigeria, there are many subsistence farmers who are living kind of hand to mouth. And
yeah,
is there a way of getting them to understand that, no, it's not government, it's not socialism, it's actually freedom? Is there a way of moving them?
Okay, so before I answer this, first of all, I would say maybe 80% of Nigeria's population lives hand to mouth.
Wow.
It's that bad. Apart from the major cities, the capital, Abuja, the capital city, the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos, and a few other states, where you have people like myself, and I don't say this to condescend to those who are not in my position, but it's a poor country. Most of the people are really, really poor. So basically you are asking, how do we reach 80% of the country? So
yes.
I feel the way things work in my country, because a very large percentage of the population is, as you said, farmers, uneducated people in the informal sector. These people don't care about philosophy.
Sure.
They look for messiahs. They look for some messiah who promises them this and promises them that. So obviously you can see that my battle is an uphill battle, because we're not promising them that we're going to make them, we're going to take from the rich and give to them. I can't. We can't do that, right? So the idea of freedom, trying to talk to these people about freedom, is not something that would exactly work. So my strategy here is different. So I'm going to reach out to the younger generation, those who are, which is why I'm
Mm.
going to young people, universities and secondary school. I'm planning long term. Now I do have a short term plan. My short term plan is maybe 4 years, 5 years, or maybe by the next election. Our next election is in 2027. My plan is, if maybe I have grown large enough, a large enough following both online and in real life, to be able to maybe get the attention of maybe this or that politician, I could reach out to them and offer them my proposal, saying, and by the way, I have to say this. Sorry, I'm digressing. Your website, where you have a policy, you have a
Mhm.
page devoted to policy. If, you have no idea how easy that made my job. When I
Oh,
discovered that such a thing existed,
thank you.
I didn't have to. I didn't have to think too hard. So Mr. Larry Sharp has done the work. So all I need to do is substitute names of places and institutions, and
Yes.
that's actually I can't thank you enough for that interview, because with Patrick Bet David, because the things you said there, you answered questions that have lingered on my mind for a long time. And of course, it was that interview that led me to your website and to discovering policy suggestions. So all I need to do is just tweak this and that policy, just scratch out maybe New York and insert Lagos or something. So thank
You
you.
literally made my day. That is exactly why I do that. I put that together so that people would just take it. Just take my policies. It's why I did it. Thank you so much for doing that and saying that. It's all worth it. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. I so you've made my job easy. So in maybe 3 years from now, when the next election cycle commences, I already have policies to go sell to politicians. I don't mean sell like in exchange for money.
Yep.
I have
Mhm.
so my job now is to get a big following, to teach more people, to reach out to young people, get young people behind me, so that in the
Yes.
next 4 years, maybe if directly or indirectly I've reached 100,000, 500,000 people, I'm aiming very, very big.
Yep.
Those 500,000 people may be able to influence their mothers and their grandmothers in the village and tell
Yes.
mama, vote this way. So that's usually how things work here. So I'm reaching
Right.
the younger generation. And of course, if I have 100,000 people, so I'm just going to be open. I reached out to many of the presidential candidates in this last election that just concluded. So I heard the same thing over and over. How many votes can you bring us? They don't care about
Right.
ideas. Many of them told me, you are
I
a
know the
smart young
feeling.
man. They told me, you are a smart young man. Your ideas make a lot of sense, right? I but how many votes can you bring? But if I go in 4 years and I have 100,000 young people who are
Yes.
influential, who are well trained behind me, grassroots people in different local governments in different states, then politicians will most certainly listen to my ideas, because I'm not just coming with ordinary words, ordinary policy, but I have an army of intelligent young people behind
I
me. So
have
that's
I have told so many people that I'm so glad you get that. People said to me, Larry, why are they going to listen to you? I said, if I have 6% of the vote in New York State,
yeah,
they will have to listen to me because they
yes,
need that 6%. So they
yes,
will listen to me, right? That's why I ran for governor. That's why I kept going. I wanted to get enough people that if Larry Sharp says this is a good idea, others will follow behind. It,
yes,
even if I lose, obviously I lost, but didn't matter. If I was able to have enough in politics, there's two things that have value: actual money and
hmm,
votes. That's it.
yes,
Nothing else has value. Money
agreed,
and votes. Well, I don't have a lot
agreed,
of money, but I can get some votes. So if I can bring votes, that's valuable. And to your point, in a country like yours where grassroots is so important, you're also giving them an army of volunteers.
yes, exactly, exactly.
That's a very good process. I like how you're thinking. I think it's right on the money. I think it's brilliant. I love the idea. So let
So
me
as
go.
it's
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So as it stands, I already have about 100 people that I know are loyal to this cause. I don't have to pay them anything. All I need to do is
Mhm.
just call them and tell them, okay, this is what we're doing now. And I've only been at this for a couple of months, right?
Mhm.
People who believe in so if we can multiply this, I believe if in maybe 4 or 5 months I've been able to get about 100 people, we can multiply this, and maybe in 3 4 years we would, even if we don't get even if we don't get a president or a governor, we would have moved the needle in the direction of
Yes.
freedom, even if it's just the tiniest bit. We get our ideas out there, get people discussing them, talking. So that's just, um, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
I agree. I say all the time, people ask me, they go, Larry, do you think you're going to save the world? And I say, well, I'd love to, but I don't think I'm going to save the world. But
Yeah,
do I think that I can be one of the people who sets it up to be saved? Yes, I do. I think I can be
yeah.
one of the people who sets it up to be saved. I hope that whoever makes America better in my view, whoever does it, I hope they look back and go, you know what? I'm glad that Larry Sharp was doing stuff because I wouldn't have done it without him. That's what I hope. Yes.
That's exactly what I feel. I don't
Mhm.
believe I'm going to be the one to bring the change, but at least let me start. I would like to be the Ron Paul of Nigeria,
There we
right? Not
go.
because I'm running for office, but Ron Paul was the one who brought libertarianism to the mainstream. So if I'm
Yes.
able to do that and inspire the next generation of people to take the torch and march Nigeria towards liberty, then that's good enough for me. If it happens during my time, it's fine. I would love that. I would
Yep.
absolutely love that. But at least let me set the let me light the fire and let people run with it. So it's all good to me.
Absolutely. So let me ask another hard part, which is in any environment where people are struggling financially, if they are in financial trouble, there's always a black market, right? There's always
Yeah.
crime and a black market. It's how it works. I'm assuming in Nigeria you also have black markets. We have them here. I'm assuming you have them in Nigeria also. How
Yes.
do you get around that? Like Mexico is having problems now. They're having trouble reforming because their cartels, their black market controls so much that they're physically having people killed, they're having people taken hostage. Mexico is struggling because they can't get a hold of their cartels, their crime syndicates. They can't get a hold of them. Do you have a similar issue in Nigeria? And if so, how do you get around them? Aren't they going to tell you at one point, hey, Econ Bro, shh, stop. We got a good thing going. Be quiet. We want to keep making money. Aren't they going to say that at one point?
Um. It My biggest fear, to be honest, is actually from the government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear. We have gangs here, right? We
Mhm.
have so we have a group called, they just call them bandits. People who rob trains, who kidnap.
Mhm.
There's kidnapping is like a very lucrative business here in Nigeria now.
Wow.
It's very I said it on the on Radio Rothbard with Ryan McMakin and Phil Bishop. Just a stone throw away from my house, someone was kidnapped, and then it happens all the time.
Wow.
Yep, a friend of mine, a very close friend, her father was kidnapped, and the family paid the ransom and they still killed the man. So that kind of
Mm.
stuff happens here. However, people like to pretend here, like we like to pretend like we don't know what's going on, right? These are
Oh.
state actors. They are state actors. Everyone knows this. We
Oh.
like to pretend like we don't know these people are sanctioned by the state, right? So the government runs everything in this country. The government runs everything in this country.
Got it.
If you are a billionaire in Nigeria, it's because the government allows it. If you
Got
are
it.
if you are so I'm just going to go ahead and say this. There is a man. There is a
Don't use his name. Don't get yourself
no
in
no
trouble.
no no. I'm not going to use his name. He's
Okay.
deceased, by the way.
Okay.
He used to sell drugs, not hard drugs, right?
Mhm.
Narcotics and stuff. When I was in secondary school, what you guys would call high school,
Mhm.
he used to sell drugs to students, right? So he would come to school and sell narcotics to teenagers, and
Mhm.
basically, right? So eventually, this man was caught, and when he was caught, it turns out he was working for the head of police at that time.
Wow.
So
Wow.
everyone knows this. We just like to pretend like Um,
Got it.
so
Okay.
enough said.
So speaking about that, is there worry of instability in Nigeria? I know that in your area of West Africa, there's recently been many coups, Mali, Niger. Is there a fear in Nigeria this may somehow spill over and have some type of instability in your nation?
We have various warring factions, right? We have people in the east, the southeastern part of the country, a secessionist movement. We have some people in the southwestern part also wanting to break out of Nigeria. We have Islamic militants in the north, and so it's we have that. So those are the actual, and I believe, again, as I've said, I personally believe that all these groups they are state actors. Either they work for, I believe they're state actors because nothing is done without the state here. Anyway, so
Got it.
but do I have the fear that perhaps the military could get upset and take over? Unlikely. I believe the Nigerian military has been weakened.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, I don't corrupt. It's too corrupt for that to happen. I don't.
So it's too corrupt
It's
to
my
be
personal
effective.
opinion.
Okay, no, I get it, absolutely. So let me talk to my audience if I could for 1 minute. If you're listening to this and you're intrigued and you like what Econ Bro is saying, then click the like button. Why haven't you clicked it already? Click the like button now. It doesn't hurt you. It's free. Just click it. It does matter. If you are on Twitter, please retweet this or repost it. I don't care what you want to call it. Re-exit. Whatever you want, do it again. Let people see this. If you want your comment to come to the front, you can support the show by super chatting if you're watching on Larry Sharpe YouTube. But either way, if you like what Econ Bro is trying to achieve, and if you think it's important, then support his cause. It is Nigerian Liberty Project. You can go there at gogetfunding.com/the Nigerian Liberty Project. The link is in both Facebook and also on YouTube. Click that link and support if you can. If you can throw them $10, $20, you can. Please do that if you can. If you can't, you can still support him anyway. You can just go to Twitter, follow him on Twitter at True Econ Bro, TrueEconBreau. Support him there and like his stuff, share his stuff to give him support that way. Either way, it's going to be helpful. So, Econ Bro, let me move on to the next piece. With this in mind and the things that are happening, I feel like there's another worry. And that worry is what I see here in America, which is there's a lot of Nigerians coming to America, a lot. And they're also doing very well. So I feel like the Nigerians coming to America, there's some of your libertarians who are saying, I don't want to stay in Nigeria. I'm going to go to America. That's what I feel, because many people won't know this. In America, the most successful immigrants for decades have always been Asians. That has been true. Often Chinese have been very successful as they came here, but other Asians too, but they've been most successful. That's no longer true in America. Right now, the most successful immigrant population in America is Nigerians. They are literally coming to America and becoming very successful. The Nigerian diaspora is going all over. There's a brain drain, I feel, at least, leaving Nigeria. Am I right here or no?
You are right. I like to say I'm one of the few, and I say this as a joke, but there is some truth to it. I'm one of the few educated Nigerians who hasn't left the country yet. Literally all my close friends have left the country.
Yes.
Literally all of them have left the country. They are scattered all over the West. So So what was the question? What was the question again?
I feel like it too, right? And the reason why I say it is I feel you, because New York is the least free state in America, ranked by Cato 5 years in a row. So I live in the least free state in the entire country, yet I stay here. All my friends keep leaving. They tell me, Larry, it's a lost cause. What are you doing? But I love my state and I love my city. And I don't want to give up yet. So, brother, I feel you. Like, I get it. I feel you, right? I get people tell me all the time, Larry, what are you doing there? Get out, leave. What are you doing? And my mother left. Like, my family has left. Right?
You said it on the show.
Yes, but I stay because I keep trying. And guess what I was saying is I have a problem because I look at the people who supported me last year and the year before. A lot of them have physically left the state. So I can't use them anymore because they're gone. I worry that you doing your work, you will get 800 people who love you. And then in 4 years, 400 are in the UK, in America, in Canada. They're gone, right? They've left. They've gone someplace else. Don't you have that same worry?
Not exactly, and I'll explain. I'll explain why. Um, Eventually, the government of this country is going to need people who have skills, right? Because all
Okay.
doctors are leaving. Doctors are leaving,
Mm.
lawyers are leaving, tech people are leaving, economists are leaving. Everyone is leaving. So at some point, the government of this country is going to. It's inevitable. They are going, unless they have a death wish. They are going to sit down and say, okay, what can we do to fix these things? And perhaps at that time they will start to listen. So, by the way, that's not why I'm staying here. I'm just using this to explain,
Yeah.
why I feel, why my situation is not the same as yours over there. Eventually, these people are going to ask, um, what can be done. So I don't believe that the our problems here are created out of malice or so
Mm.
in the US, the left, the progressives, they seem malicious to me. I don't think it's just ignorance. I think when I look at a Gavin Newsom, for instance, a Nancy Pelosi, these people strike me as evil people. I'm sorry to say.
Mm.
They don't I don't see
I'm
them
not
like
fighting you. I'm not
okay.
fighting you.
I don't think they're ignorant. I think these people know, but they are wicked people. That's how I see them. I could be wrong. In my country, although we have those kinds of people, um, there are still a lot of people who are ignorant.
Okay.
Whenever I speak with people, educated people about ideas, libertarian ideas, especially Austrian economics, um, they always say, are you saying people in our government don't know this? And I'm talking to educated people, right? And then I always ask them, did you know these things before I told you these things? And they're like, that how do you expect them to know it? All they teach here is Keynesianism. When our politicians send their children outside to Caltech or to MIT or to Harvard to learn economics or London School of Economics, they learn the same garbage I learned here, right? And they bring back the same nonsense, Keynesian, neoclassical nonsense. They bring it back here. So that's literally all they know, right? And
Right.
then when you look at the West, all they get from the media, there's all we get here is CNN and MSNBC. We don't even get Fox News here. So when they see when they watch the news, all they hear is progressive policies. So they think it's right. They don't understand that the policies are the reason why things are going bad. Now, I am not saying that we do not have people who are malicious, but
Mhm.
I would sooner attribute our problems to incompetence, to ignorance, than I would malice.
Got
So
it. Got it.
eventually they are going to seek solutions. I hope so.
Well,
And yeah,
I agree with you in one part, and this is something that some of my audience will know. When our governor last year, when she did her inaugural address and she did her acceptance speech for the Democratic Party, she actually used my talking points from my website in her speech.
imagine
So
that.
that means her team, I don't think she read my website, but her team who wrote her
Yeah.
speech, they read my website, right? The team members read it and they saw, oh, that makes sense. He took it and they put it into her speech. Now, her policies didn't change, but her rhetoric did. And why
Mhm.
do I say that? Because I agree with you. I think at one point, if there's going to be some change in New York State, I think at one point they're going to go, fine, let's call Larry Sharp. Fine, Larry, you've been sitting here for 10 years bothering us. Fine, come on in, give us some ideas. We'll pick your brain for something. I think that will happen at one point. I think you're right.
So that literally happened with our last president. He had been running since he had been running since 1999 or 2003, and he kept losing and losing. And then at some point, the politicians, the political class, the people were like, okay, this man has been crying to rule the country since. Let's give him a shot. And he was the worst president we've ever had.
Oh,
Hopefully not the worst yet, but the worst ever. I hope we
right,
don't
right,
get
right,
any
right.
worse, because the last 8 years were hell. No matter by any metric, the last 8 years were disastrous. So eventually, I believe people are going to do that again. Okay, let's just give this guy has been talking for years. Let's give him a shot.
Right,
So I believe
right.
that
I
might
hope
happen
so. I'm with you. And the
if we
other piece
persist
is,
anyway.
yes, the other piece, the reason why I fight so much in New York is I feel like in America, at least, how New York goes, the rest of the country goes,
Yeah.
right? So if I can change New York, I can change the whole country. So now I don't know. I know your capital is Abuja. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Is Abuja more influential culturally than Lagos, or is Lagos more influential culturally?
So the country is north and south. The culture in the south is vastly different from the culture in the north.
Ah,
Vastly
okay.
different. So northerners are mostly Muslims, as I've said. The Hausa
Mm-hmm.
Fulani Muslims, and then the southerners, you have Yorubas, you have Igbos, you have Muslims in the south as well. You have Christians in the north, but that's the divide. North is Muslim, south is Christian. But you have
Oh,
mixtures.
there's a big city in the north. I know. Is it Kano? Is that right?
Kano, yeah, yeah,
Kano. Yes.
Kano. So okay, good that you mentioned Kano, right? If
Mm-hmm.
if you want change in the north, in the northern part of the country, it
Yeah.
has to start from Kano. It has to
Got
start
it.
from Kano,
Okay.
not even the capital. However, Lagos in the south is usually the state that dictates um the the pulse of the country.
Yeah,
So
I know
if I
you
were
have Nigeria has a big entertainment industry that comes out
yes,
of Lagos, right?
yeah, that's all Lagos here. That's our California and New York at the same time. Yeah.
Got it. So where should you be working? Should you be working in Kano? Should you be working in Lagos? Where should you be working?
So you mean my activism?
Yes,
So I'm
all
I'm
three.
I'm oh yes, yes, yes. I'm going to all. I intend to go to all the states. There are some states
Ah,
that are yeah, yeah. So there are some. I've planned it out.
that's massive. Hold on,
Yeah.
you have over 200 million people in Nigeria, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's massive. I only have 18 million in New York. You got 200 and some odd million. What's your population now? Do you know?
200 plus million. We haven't
Yeah.
done a census since 2006, so they just estimated it's
Ah,
200 over 200 million.
yes.
Could
That's a
be a little
wow.
more, could be a little less. So I
That
plan.
is
We
huge.
have 36 states and and the federal capital, so 37. So I plan to visit every single one of them. Yeah. So
Wow.
my plan is I'll do 12 every year. 12 every year. That's my plan. One state a month.
I like that tremendously, guys. And now that you hear that, if you're listening to what we're talking about, if you can support Econ Bro, please do that. You can either do it by following him on Twitter if you want to at True Econ Bro, TrueEconBreau, or if you have some cash you can spare, you head over to support his Nigerian Liberty Project at gogetfunding.com. The Nigerian Liberty Project. The links are all on the YouTube page and on the Facebook page. Wow. Okay. So let me ask you then, with that in mind, you're spending your time right now going to colleges, correct? Or secondary schools?
Yes.
Which one?
Universities, colleges.
Universities. Is that the right place for you to go now? Or should you be moving to someplace else?
Oh, it's the right place for me to go. It's the
Why
right place.
colleges? If I mean, in my mind, right, I think of colleges as a place where they're going to be saying, Econ, bro, you're crazy, right? Look, this is the right answer. This college that our teachers are telling us that you're wrong. Why are you going there?
Yeah, so the seminars I've hosted so far, I haven't gotten anything of the sort. I've been able to
Wow.
convince them. I've been able to convince them that their professors are wrong. So I'm a
Wow.
little. I'm going to be very very honest with you. I'm a little intimidated by you. So I'm not doing my best right now. So I'm usually I'm more talkative. I'm better at expressing myself, but I find myself losing my train of
You're
thought.
doing a fine job, brother. You're doing a
I
fine job.
So I'm very, very good at convincing my people. I'm very, very good, especially young people. I'm very good at convincing them. Put me in front of an elderly person, I start to stutter and all that. But in front of young people, I'm fantastic. And I as I said, I am a Christian preacher, right? That is my day job, so to speak. One
Sure.
of my yeah. So I'm trained in speaking to people, convincing people. The point of being a preacher is to tell people Jesus Christ is Lord, and that, and
Sure.
so I have to convince people, teach them. So I'm actually very good, by the special grace of God, at breaking down those complex Austrian economic concepts, and they really aren't complex compared to the nonsense we are taught in schools. I'm
Sure.
very good at putting it into layman language. You know, if you, I don't know if you've seen the videos from my seminars that I don't know if you've seen them. Mr. Thor Bishop posted a couple of them online. My explanations were very simple, no technical jargon, nothing of the sort. I break them down so that even 13-year-olds can understand without any education. You can, I mean, as long as you are
Nice.
intelligent and you understand English or whatever language I choose to speak, you get what I'm saying. So,
Is English a common language? I think English is a common language
yes,
in Nigeria. Many Nigerians do speak English, correct?
yes. It's a second language for all of us, but um, that's our lingua franca here, our common tongue, our
Got it.
common language. Yeah.
Sure.
So
So how?
I've
Go ahead, I'm
chosen
sorry.
I've chosen colleges because that's where I can get young people. I can't just go to the markets. I don't know where else to find young people, right? So I'm going to schools.
Mm,
I make I become friends with a couple of people there. Started maybe I talk to one of this is how I've been doing. Talk to one or two people. I look for their Department of Economics and philosophy, law, accounting, business. I find people there, and then I start to talk to them. And then when they are sold, they call their friends, and then we join a group, and then we organize an official seminar. So I'm leaving out their lecturers, their professors, because I don't want arguments, right?
got it.
I don't want any arguments. I want to come and teach. And I always tell them, when you go back to school, whatever they teach you, teach and give them that in their exams. But know that what you are taught, what you are being taught is wrong. And
Right.
I don't know if you the results, you can see them on Twitter. Many of those students follow me on Twitter. They are engaging with other libertarians in the West. You know, I've introduced them to, I'm sure a couple of them are following you. Maybe you haven't noticed because you get like thousands of followers a day or something. So they ask questions. I've introduced them to a lot of my libertarian friends over there in the West. They're asking questions, having debates. You know, some of these people are like 19, 20 years
I
old.
love that.
Imagine what's going to happen with those people in the next 10 years, you know?
Yes, you're right.
So
You're right. That those people are going to eventually run everything.
I hope so.
Right.
That's the
They will
dream.
be the ones who run. They're going to run the country at one point. Right. They
That's
will
the
be running the
dream.
country.
That's the
Yes.
dream.
And if they get it, they'll okay, let's change things. Let's make things better. Because you're right. I like what you're saying because you're going young, which is cultural.
Yes,
And this really is a cultural issue, right?
it is.
We think about it as economic, and it is economic, but our belief system in economics is very often cultural.
Yes.
And then we have to have answers that people can accept and understand. Because when you're in trouble, you will take any hand out because you're in trouble, right?
Yes.
So I'm in trouble, any hand comes out. If that hand's a socialist hand, you take the socialist hand because it's the hand
Yes.
that's out for you. If it's a libertarian hand, you'll take that hand. And we need more liberty hands saying, come on, I got you. Come, we have an answer. I think you're totally right. That's a great way of looking at it. So let me ask you a more specific question. Do you have any goals for the first couple of years that you feel comfortable sharing? Like you want this to happen or that to happen or a certain number of people or a certain number. Do you have any goals like that? I lost him again. I'm sure he'll come back. He is, it is like almost 1 o'clock in the morning in Nigeria. So I'm happy that I even have him. So I'm not going to complain. So yes. So I guess what I want to ask, what the last thing I want to ask him was, does he have actual goals on what his next steps are, right? Is it clear what his next, if he can actually travel in the next 3 years and go to every Nigerian state, as he said, there's 36 plus the capital. So if he can go to all of them in the next 3 years, I mean, that would be an amazing thing to have an event in everyone. It's like me trying to cover New York State, but New York State's not as big as Nigeria. And I've only got 18 million people here. He's got 200 and some odd thousand, 200 and something million, not thousand, 200 and something million people in Nigeria. He has a much bigger, a much tougher task than I do. But I love the idea because what he can do, and again, some of you may not think it's that important. And I get if you don't. I get you may go, well, what do I care? You know, we're in America. Why do I need to be worried about this? Because it is cultural. That's number one. But number two, it spreads. And when other nations are thinking this way, it makes everything better. If right now, and I'm assuming that I'm taking him at his word, I'm not an expert in Nigeria at all, so I'm taking him at his word. If right now the biggest chunk of people who are trying to reform Nigeria are people who are looking at only a socialist answer, then any reform is going to be socialist. If you're okay with that, fine. But I know many of us aren't okay with that, right? We want a more freedom, a more libertarian, a more liberty-oriented solution to these problems. And if you already have corruption, which obviously most countries do, Nigeria also has corruption too, and now you add socialism in an already corrupt environment, oh my God, how bad is that going to be? If already most of the bad actors are state-sponsored actors, and now you're going to add socialism to that, oh my God, you are asking for a horrible state. You're asking for serfdom. You're begging for serfdom, and you're also begging for something else. And this is my other word that I brought up earlier. You're also begging for war. Why would you be begging for war? Because when nations are in trouble like that, they have to find an answer. And in West Africa, that answer is going to be invading Niger or invading Mali or invading insert country here, whatever you want to do, invading Cameroon or whatever. I don't know the politics, the detail there. I know that right now, Western Africa right now is having coup after coup after coup right now. So you invade one of them in some reason that, oh, we're going to liberate the people of this country. And what do? You go in there and you throw all your angry young men, instead of fighting your government, they fight someone else's government. Smart move. And you now have a reason to have austerity. Countries at war. So, that's why you're suffering, because war. And then you go, then you pillage all of their resources. And that's how the government makes more money. And that's why we have so many wars for so many reasons. So the other worry I have is that if we only have a socialist answer there, we're begging for war. And if you're an American, you may go, why do I care about that? Because we'll be involved. Because we're involved in all the wars. Because we are. Not that I'm happy about that, but we know that's true. So we'll be involved in whatever is the next war, whether it's Mali or Niger or whatever it might be, we will be involved in that war too. Guaranteed. So I feel like that is my worry and why I am concerned. I feel that we may have a bigger or worse problem. We may have a bigger or worse problem. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get Econ Bro back. Oh, wait, I think I am. Hold on. I was patient and he returned. Nice.
Yeah, I even sent you a message on Twitter. Nigerian internet, it happens.
Understood. No worries. I don't have a problem talking. That's one thing I'm good at. So I was still talking. It's fine. The last question I wanted to ask you is, do you have any specific goals that you think you'll be able to achieve in the coming year or two? Do you have I want a certain number of people at an event. I want a certain number of chapters in every state or something like that. Do you have any?
Yes, I do. In 4 years, or by the next election, I want to have at least 1,000 loyal people in each state.
Wow.
Yeah, in each state.
That's 37,000 people.
Yes. So I mean people that I can connect with personally. I'm not talking of the network. This is my goal.
Right.
1,000 people in each state. So I aim so high because if I work hard enough to attain 1,000 and I get 500, that's also fair. So 500 people in each state that have my number that I can call and coordinate and tell them, gather, we have to meet. So that's my goal. And if I can get that, of course. Also, I want to reach out to, well, I want to appear on as many shows as possible, not just to raise um, money, but also to gain popularity for myself. So there is a way
Sure.
things work. There's a way things work here. If I'm on now, I was on Rothbard Radio 2 weeks ago. I was on Boards and Reality podcast. Now I'm on Larry Sharp's podcast. So let's say I'm on Patrick Bet David a couple of months from now, or Joe Rogan. I'm virtually untouchable. Nobody will touch me here. Right. So so Joe Rogan, for instance, Joe Rogan is very big here. He's not just big over there. Joe Rogan is big even here in Nigeria, right? So everyone knows Joe Rogan. So if I go on Joe Rogan, believe me, if I speak, the president of this country will hear. Yes,
I got it. That makes sense.
Someone will most certainly tell him that there is a. I mean, he doesn't know who Joe Rogan is, but he would have people in his cabinet who watch Joe Rogan. You know, so that's also a goal of mine, to get on as many shows as possible, because once I become a popular figure, I can't be taken
it's here
out.
too. It's here too. The reality of it is popularity matters.
It would raise questions if I disappear. So
100%. I like that. Sarah says,
so please, if
thank
you have
both.
any,
Oh, hold on. Let me
if you have
grab
any
this comment. Thank you both for this provoking conversation. Makes me realize I have much work I could do. Look at that. So you're motivating people. So yes. So if you want to support Econ Bro, do this, you can. One way is you can go to Twitter and follow him at True Econ Bro, TrueEconBreau, or you can also help him actually get to all of those 36 states in the next 3 years. So you can do that. And you can support the Nigerian Liberty Project. You go to gogetfunding.com, the Nigerian Liberty Project. The link is both in the YouTube show description and the Facebook show description. If you can give some money, that'd be great. $10, $20, $100, whatever you can give. If you can give some money, that will be great. That would help him out. And if you can't, if you don't have the cash, if you have the cash, please give. If you don't have, you can just follow him on Twitter. Either way, it helps. The bigger, the better he gets, the more chance Joe Rogan will notice him. Maybe Tucker Carlson will notice him and do a Tucker Carlson X thing. You never know. It could work, right? We're doing our part for that. I appreciate it. So is there anything that we didn't bring up, Econ Bro, something that we should bring up before we wrap this up?
I think we've pretty much covered everything.
I love it. That's great. I'm glad we did. So I want to say thank you so much for giving me your time. I know it's 1 o'clock in the morning over there where you are. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I want to say
thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I've never been so glad to stay up late. I've never been so glad to stay up. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Absolutely. I'm very grateful.
And for everyone who's watching, I want to say thank you all for everyone who was watching. Please do me a favor, share this everywhere you possibly can. It does matter. Please do so. It really does matter. Share, and share some more. I will be back on tomorrow at 7 p.m. live Eastern. I'll do an AMA, and I was talking about the Republican debate last night. And I'll be on again Monday night, 9 p.m. on my Sharp Club. I will see